So today I'll be speaking to you guys about the class structures, specifically in 18th century France. So a little history. We start by knowing that Louis XIV dies in 1715 and leaves France in a disastrous state after 25 years of warfare. It was kind of touched on by Kyle, saying how there was a lot of warfare. They were trying to expand the territory throughout the world. With a lot of warfare comes a lot of money spent throughout the years. So the country is like in a disastrous state, and there's a lot of famine, declining population because of this famine, bad industry and commerce. So it's just France is in a bad state. And also, although because of that, the French Empire still has its legacy thanks to its popularity, because Louis XIV was a very popular king at the time. And because of this expansion in France's popularity, becomes a rival to Britain, which leads on to the so I'm going to talk about the structures. In modern times, we talk about structures in terms of economic classes, so lower class, upper class, middle class. But in 18th century, we talk about it in terms of estate, order, and condition. So estate would come from a function of birth. So you were either noble or common, and that was in your blood, as in you were born into this estate. And there's also order, which relates to estate, and it relates to your social disposition in society. The orders started from the Middle Age, and they included the clergy, the nobles, and the commoners in that order. And these orders affected political orders in France. So in different assemblies, you would see somebody who would present these different orders. And also, social mobility was not very common throughout different social classes, but it was common throughout social orders. So if you were in the clergy, it was very easy to move from social classes, but you couldn't move from, let's say, nobility to clergy. And these are some of the examples of positions that you could get in the different orders. So clergy, you could be a pope, cardinal, bishop, priest, and monks. Nobility was mostly emperors, kings, upper and lower nobility, and commoners were domestic rents, so one division to categorize 90% of the population, which is a lot. So the first estate was the clergy, and the clergy amounted to more than 100,000 men. They owned about 1/10 of the land in France, which is considerably a lot. They also had many privileges because of their social ranking. So they paid less taxes. They basically paid no taxes. They didn't have to do any military service, and whenever you saw them, they weren't the same to everybody. They were just, whether you were poor or rich in the clergy, you were just different because of your power. And also, their income came as landowners because of the amount of land that they had throughout France. And but they still had to repay a small percentage to the king as and throughout the clergy, they had the most social mobility, and usually this was acted upon. If you could just take a vow, you could just move up a social class. And the upper clergy was mostly the noblesse, and the lower clergy was conservier, which was the non-noble class. The second estate was the nobility, and it was an even smaller percentage of the population, even less than the clergy. And there was either the royalty or the nobility. Royalty was the most exclusive state because it was a matter of blood, so you had to be born into nobility, into the royalty. And nobility was less restrictive, and you gained this nobility through inheritance. And signs of nobility were land, mostly your possessions, so land, horses, swords and armor, military service, hunting and feasting, manners and castles. Nobility didn't give wealth, so it wasn't easy to be lost, but you could lose it. So what people would do was, let's say they would marry somebody else from the nobility, and you would keep your nobility throughout the ages. the key couldn't ennoble anybody, and also they could sell titles. But at the time they realized this, so many titles were being sold that the noble class just became very bigger. And the third estate was the commoners, or the common folk. And this is, again, the rest of France, which is the peasantry, which is a very, very big class. And the bourgeoisie was at the head of this class, which means they could move up from different through a different order. And education was an important avenue to wealth in this class because you needed good skill and good fortune. And at this time, medicine, law, and theology was one of the things that you learned through education. And this was very big because when you couldn't marry nobly, because you were a peasant basically, you had to get a good education to have a chance at life. So to start off the discussion, how does system translate 18th century France in this topic?
Maybe translate.
Like the aspects of 18th century France and also
Well, he talks about the kings.
He talks about what?
The king. What does he say about the kings?
Stinks. Sorry, Alex.
What the only characters?
Well, I mean, you talked about how the commoners is a huge class, and how bourgeoisie and education and stuff can have you escalate within that. So it translates that pretty well. I tried talking about it in my presentation.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
But it's sort of like Maldini is an example of a commoner who managed to. He's not noble at all. I'm not going to say he escalated. He was sort of born into his wealth, and that shows someone before him. Say his dad had that education and stuff, and managed to build himself up. And yeah, that he translated that pretty well in his novel.
Okay. Any other characters that could John?
Gauguin's mom, my kid's real mom,
Yes.
who was a commuter essentially and had pretty much nothing. And as Madam said before, technically Justin kind of like created his own with Gauguin because he literally has nothing. Like the Stephen count.
Sorry.
Does Gauguin even count as a common? I don't know why. Like would he count as one since he's born with absolutely nothing?
Yeah.
Not even a name.
He lacks a name. So, can you go back to your commoner slide? Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, we haven't divided it fully, right? So we have like the bourgeoisie, and then we have peasants, and then we have like the outcasts below, right? So he's not even a peasant, right?
The lowest of them all.
Yes.
Like he was born among fish.
I want to answer your question.
Oh, yes.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Or maybe I'll ask everybody else a question and they can answer. When the girls in class kind of slowly get killed one by one, how does the society react to their deaths? And relate it perhaps to this presentation in regards to class structure.
Is it for the whole class?
Yes. No. David.
Oh, you're looking at me. I can't tell. So, I feel like it made the most important death that was more like celebrated and mourned for was the last girl. So because she was a very, we said that he was he a noble? Or was he no?
Marquis
Was
or something.
no?
Oh,
Well, was he noble though?
Second consul.
He was borderline, right?
He was not noble. We confirmed that last class. He was not noble. He was considered part of the commoners. He was bourgeoisie. But he worked because he wanted to get himself up to nobility.
Okay, so we saw that there's a lot of mourning in it because I feel like he made a name for himself. So because he made it that far, I feel like people gave more respect to him. They feel like he can, since his daughter died, he can be more valued than other people. So let's say when we saw Grenouille's mom dying, no one really cared. So we feel that there's a contrast between being like of the low social class or the high social class, that people tend to, I guess, adore you more than even if they don't know you. You know what I mean?
Pay attention.
Any more? Yes, okay.
I think like when they're all being killed, they're kind of worried that like all the men will have like no one to marry, and the generations will be able to.
Okay, sure. Like, remember initially when the girls start getting picked off, like initially they were like, well, they're not all noble girls, they're not all of a certain class. In fact, they ranged, right? There was a girl that was an Italian, remember? You go to page 195, that's kind of interesting, because when they start like pointing fingers at certain people, it's all related to class structures. So it says, for lack of gypsies, people decided to suspect, okay, so it means that before they decided to suspect the Italians, they guessed it was the gypsies, okay? But there weren't any Italians around either. It was too early in the year for them. They would first arrive in the region in June at a time of the jasmine harvest. So it could not have been the Italians either. Finally, the wig makers came under suspicion, and they were searched for the hair. Of the murdered girl, to no avail. Then it was the Jews who were suspect. Then the monks of Benedictine cloister, reputedly a lecherous lot, although all of them were well over 70. Then the Cistercians, then the Freemasons, then the lunatics from the Charité, then the coal burners, then the beggars, and last but not least, the nobility, in particular, the Marquis of Cabrit, for he had already been married 3 times and organized, so it was said, orgiastic black masses in his cellars, where he drank the blood of virgins to increase this potency. Of course, nothing definite could be proved. No one had witnessed the murder. The clothes and hair of the dead women were not found. Okay, so it's kind of interesting in that particular passage. We get like to hear different ranks. Okay, but it's not necessarily in regards to the different classes, because they're saying, you know, even the nobility, like some of the nobility, someone who is considered perhaps lower on the nobility, like the Marquis de Cabrit, was suspected. But then in terms of like commoners, there's definitely an order, and then even in terms of the clergy, like there seems to be a suggestion that the monks are kind of at the bottom, and they're like this lecherous lot that you really completely understand. Sorry, was there any that around here?
No.
Karen?
No, but what does he say about those classes?
What is he trying
No,
to
he
do?
names it. Yeah, I get. But like, is there a specific way he portrayed these social guys? Like, why did he put them in that order? Because that's their value of importance.
Yeah, from the bottom to the top. Yeah.
Well.
But the beggars.
Wait. Does that mean that Italians are worse than the others, or are?
Yes, because Italians were not considered part of society. They're like outsiders, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay?
Yeah. Got it.
Second question. Does the presence of such a social class hinder or ease Cornelius throughout the story? Because it seems as if throughout the story it's not very difficult for him to meet different people.
I feel like it seemed to be easy for him since he had such a great talent. But if you're someone who doesn't have like such a talent that no one else has, and you're just kind of a regular type working guy, I feel like it'll be hard for someone to move up in the social scale. But for him, it seemed to be easy. We don't know how easy it could actually be, because he got used most of the time, and he had to, I guess, like put himself as a slave for others to actually move up in that rank. So I guess he makes it seem easy, but it really wasn't.
Same thing as David, I find that like, it's not necessarily easy, but what does kind of make it easy for him is the fact that he's not born with a name. So he can't directly be classified as something, which technically he could be playing back and forth between the classes and not between. There's someone born with like a last name in the lower class, would like someone born in the lower class would probably get like kind of harder to climb up. Even though Gunui starts completely at the bottom, the fact that he has no name, I feel like it's easier for him to climb up.
So because he has no identity, he could just place himself anywhere he wanted.
Yeah, like obviously he has to like work for it and things like that, but like, it's easier for him in this society to climb up since he has no name.
Well, I think, like, based on, like, the answers you gave in the other presentations, like, I feel like Grenouille in any social structure and any, like, point of time, he would have been able to use his talent for his advantage. But I feel like, yes, like David and Johan said, it was easier for him to make it through because there was actually steps to make it through. Like here, like nowadays, it's just, like if you have the right people or the right contacts to like, make it through. But here he used Baldini to get the journey papers. He did this to get that. So like it was more because of the structure. He had steps or like guidelines to get to his goal. I think.
It's all good, bro.
I'm sorry, I'm coming back to question number 1.
No, don't do that.
And it's kind of an interesting thing that nobody has talked about power structure in regards to sex.
What?
I mean, like,
Yeah.
I know.
okay?
Yeah,
So, you know, female, male, gender, power structure.
If we go back to how like the society reacted when girls were killed, as much as girls didn't necessarily have a huge role, they were still valued in the sense that purity and like, all they cared about was, did he rape them? Like it was really like based, like they care a lot about marriage and that whole role that female has. To the point where like Richie's trying to protect his daughter so she can get married so he can be noble.
Good.
And, yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Excellent. A++.
He views her and he continuously calls her his possession.
Yeah.
Right? And she is his most prized possession, you're right, because her marriage to the Baron, as she really wants that union to kind of follow through, will help him kind of climb that ladder of success and fulfill his dreams, okay, of nobility, you're right.
Yeah.
The rest of the community, same thing. It becomes this, all of the people, regardless of social class, we have farmers, we have townsfolk, we have even the Italians. When the girls start getting killed, they immediately kind of reinforce this idea that there has to be curfew for all of the girls. They have to go in at night. No one can, they cannot leave anybody's side for kind of any moment in time. No sense of freedom there, but it's this idea of restricting it completely to the control of men. And what's interesting is, then on page 197, they talk about like this town council, okay, that is held. A committee of the 30 of the richest and most influential commoners and nobles in Graz, okay? And it's these men, and they are described as proud, powerful men of the town council, okay? Who were enlightened, it's kind of an interesting description, and anti-clerical, okay? So you're already kind of getting ideas in regards to David's presentation and Chloe's presentation relating to religion and science once again, okay? So they're gathering all these powerful men, richest men, in order to debate what they're going to do with their most prized possessions. David?
I feel like also girls in that time were seem to be more of like, I guess what Karen said, like about a girl is something pure. So I feel like that's why if we see Grenouille, he only killed girls and not guys. Because there's no difference between a girl and a guy of the way they naturally smell. We're all humans. But why did he kill those girls? I feel there's that sense of being a girl is something pure, something valuable, like you said. So maybe that portrays the idea that girls are something of value and guys are something that just kind of, they're there, they're doing their jobs, they just keep doing what they're doing. So I feel like he could kill that something that's vulnerable, something that's of a prized possession more than a guy that's just regular.
Interesting. Diego, then Taj, then Karen, I think.
I don't remember like the exact words Grenouille used, but like adding to what David said, this idea that women are so delicate compared to men, especially young women. I think he described, like when he first found Laure in the garden, as I think he described her as some sort of like flower almost. He was like, in 2 years this thing is gonna blossom. It's gonna like release all its, you know, it's like it's max. I'm sorry, like it's like
Best
Become
sense.
fully
it's like the
fragrant.
apogee kind of
Yes.
her smell and everything.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's like delicate flower, like young women.
Good.
So.
Excellent. Taj.
He doesn't kill the women as like symbols of like purity or youth. It's because they smell different. Because pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
but
girls
why?
smell different.
Why aren't guys? Why is the difference between a girl and a guy? We're all humans. Why do
Guys
girls
smell
smell
like
Girls
different?
have different settings
Guys
down
smell
there.
like
That's not-
So it's because of their genitals.
Well, it's the pretty girls that smell like he explains that people will see them as pretty because how they smell. So he's killing like the prettiest girls in town up to her, who is the prettiest of them.
Bear and bird.
Okay.
Karen.
Well, if we wanted to like add to what David said, pure, and like doesn't he make like the purest form of perfume with it, like the essence or whatever? So if the girls are considered pure and he's making the purest perfume with the pure, it's like the ultimate like possession, and yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
I thought they smelled so good compared to others because they were pure and was it like
Yeah, I think because
Yes.
if they're not
Because
virgins,
the way
then-
he's describing other people and how they're disgusting, but
Yes.
then he's like a virgin who hasn't been touched or whatever. And
Yes.
she's so amazing.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, Laura. Like, think about what Susskind says about sex in this book, right? Like, you have the thing that is the most beautiful and most, like, in terms of scent, are the virgins,
yes.
okay? And they're the pretty virgins, right? Like, it's the ones who have been untouched and untainted. And then you contrast that with like, you know, just throwing like the whole idea of that group orgy where everybody's kind of participating in this act of sex, but he is like disgusted by it, right?
You said it was like
And
they're
so
like
there seems to be, I don't know what you can tell me, but there definitely seems to be suggestions in regards to how he views perhaps sex and, yeah, what do you think about sex?
Which is like
Go,
which
Karen?
is weird because like another way of saying like sex is like making love, which is kind of like contradictory because like usually people like who love each other have, I don't know, whatever nowadays. So it's weird because he doesn't search for love that way
Yes.
or affection. He searches for
You're right, that's an
Like-
excellent connection.
Yeah.
He's not searching for love that way, you're right.
Breaks it down.
He's searching for love in a
Breaks
very
it down.
different way. David?
I feel like for him, like that whole idea of getting seduced by another person is for him is kind of unacceptable or it doesn't make sense to him because he's mostly seduced by the scent. His scent, he gets it feels like there's a bit of like an arousement when he does those great smells and when he finds those amazing smells. And I feel like that reflects to the end of the book where they finally like realize after he did that perfect smell that they're also aroused by the smell, so is he, but he just had it early on in his life other than they did. So I feel like for him another person is not the reason why you're having sex or being sexually aroused, but for him it's mostly the scent that's sexually arousing.
Sure. See, I go.
And when we talk about like vulnerability, like at first it's just like the women, and then eventually when he says like when the procession's about to go of like his execution, he says it's as if he had seen through them at their most vulnerable point. So everybody, not just the women, grasped them and touched their erotic core, and then finally he says like and like blah blah blah, and then there's like 10,000 human beasts. It was infernal. So like that's the only point in the story where like the humans finally see themselves just as Grenouille has seen them all along.
Good.
So this like perfume that he has created has allowed him in a way to share his point of view, and like but in the end it says like they all realized what had just happened in the morning after everything was done, and they were all like embarrassed and ashamed of themselves. So like disgust and all that. So
Good.
I found that
Yes, well put. Well put.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Laura.